So just to get us started talking about the catcalling video, we wanted to speak about the male perspective. Obviously, we're guys, so we just wanted to share what we thought and how we felt about it personally. So to get that started,
So I personally felt a little bit offended by the video. I believe some of the catcalling was out of line, but there was a good amount of it that I don't believe was actual catcalling, which I think makes men look bad. It kind of makes men kind of withdraw what they've been taught their whole life of feeling that saying hello to a person they find attractive or saying you're very attractive is something they should do. So watching a video like that takes me aback of thinking about myself in that way. It changes my perspective on myself.
also playing off that, I think, but like as a guy, I don't experience catcalling, obviously, but I know that like catcalling, things happen in life outside that you can't control, like robbery and stuff like that. You have to go outside just mentally prepared for it. Obviously, this happened to me, but if I were put in a woman's shoes, it would be something that I'd have to get ready for. You can't prevent it. All you can do is prepare your reaction to that. So if that happens, the best thing you can do is just keep your head down and keep moving. Although it does happen often, that's unfortunate.
So as girls, we're just going to respond to the video and how we feel. I know personally, if I walk outside, I don't feel like I should dress a certain way in order to avoid getting comments. I don't think that I should change how I dress in order to avoid that. And I think it goes along the same lines as if you talk about rape, it's like teaching the girls how not to get raped instead of teaching the aggressor not to rape the victim.
Yeah, definitely for girls it's more prevalent, like we experience it, especially for me since I come from New York City. It happens to me a lot, and sometimes like the depiction of the woman in the video shows that she was like explicit, like she was dressed very like, I guess, attractive, but necessarily it's not like that doesn't happen all the time. Like you could literally be in sweatpants just like how I am and still be catcalled in New York City. So I think that's a very stereotypical image that they have, but women should not be afraid of what they want to wear. And it also goes through the concept of like the looking glass self. We come out thinking that we look fine, that we're appropriately dressed, and then once we walk outside and we get catcalled, we think twice about our appearance, uncomfortable. And I know this happened to me a couple of times. And when I go back to my house, I'm like, damn, like maybe I should have never worn this.
Or also like how other people see me, it's like I'm not viewed as a person, I'm viewed as an object, and it goes back to before women's rights, and we have equal rights for a reason. And I mean, it's how I see myself. Before I walk out, I feel good about myself, and then someone sees me as an object, and then all of a sudden I'm insecure and I don't feel good, and then I don't want society to look at me that way. I want to be viewed as a person, and I don't think it's acceptable for people to say, like, this is how it is and just expect it. I don't think that should be how it is. I don't think we should just, like, it's something to expect every time you walk out, like, you have the chance of being catcalled.
So how has catcalling been affected by socialization?
So when I think of catcalling changing over time in America, I instantly think of like the 1950s. I feel like you get the stereotypical image of like construction workers sitting on sitting on the sidewalk just like whistling at women and stuff. You see that a lot in cartoons, and when I think about it, if you see it in cartoons, that means that it was socially acceptable. People accepted that it happened, and if it's in cartoons, people grow up thinking that it's normal. So since that time, the past about 65 years or so, it's not only been ingrained in our culture, but it's become something that most males growing up think is okay for them to do, which is not exactly the case. They're never taught that. It's just something in the back of their head that says, no one ever told me this was wrong. So I think that in the past 65 years, like I mentioned, like it's become like a subconscious thing that everyone knows about. No one really talks about it that much, but it's just there.
So watching the New York City catcalling video, I also found elements of discrimination in it. Speaking more to the fact that out of the numerous incidents that they talked about there being catcalling, they only showed the catcalling performed by minority males. They noted that there are a lot of catcalling cases which I would assume New York City being predominantly white would have had a decent amount of white males catcalling her, but they don't show any of those cases. Maybe potentially one, but that one potential case is that the face is actually blurred out. So I wonder why it is performed in that video that way. Now, using my sociological imagination, I've also developed my own idea of why it probably is a majority of minority males that do this. Growing up in a minority male society, it's kind of a rite of passage or sort of a thing you're brought into understanding, like you're socialized in minority male households, that catcalling, as you would call it, or speaking to girls or saying something to them when they walk by is a sign or sense of manhood and development of growth, where it's not that they were doing anything they felt was weird, but doing something they've always been taught to do, which isn't something that they're practicing to objectify women, but genuinely doing it because they understand or have been taught their whole life that that's how you're supposed to live life.
So in regards to the labeling theory and the catcalling, basically the labeling theory is when individuals unconsciously notice how others label themselves or how people label them by the way they portray themselves and the reactions others have in the form of their basis of their self-identity. So for instance, if you portray yourself a certain way, how people view you or how you may label yourself. So with the catcalling, like many people may believe that with the labeling theory in place, women would begin to feel diminished and belittled and label themselves kind of like in more appropriate terms over sexualized because of the fact that men may see them as a piece of meat or may see them as something that is a sexual object and not necessarily a person. And I'm not saying that all individuals do this, but with catcalling in particular, that's what most women feel in that position.
So I'm going to talk about the strain theory in terms of catcalling. So first, the strain theory explains how society gives us certain templates for acting appropriately. However, not everyone has equal ability to achieve socially acceptable goals. So in terms of catcalling, it's acceptable for guys to catcall girls, but you don't really see girls catcalling guys. And especially in the video of the women walking around New York getting the certain responses, there's been responses to the video that there were a few girls dressed as construction workers and they were like seeing like men walk by or whatever, and their catcalling would be, yo, like, you look like you would be good in a committed relationship, or, ooh, I want you to be my baby dad, or, like, they would, like, say different things, and, like, it wouldn't, like, make sense, and it didn't, like, seem right because of the strain theory that guys are able to catcall girls, but girls can't catcall guys.
Action.
Damn.
I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love, love's going to leave me.